If you have felt oddly irritable today for no obvious reason, Cancer, there is an actual explanation, and it has almost nothing to do with what is happening around you right now. It has to do with something that just ended. Let us start with the bigger picture, because there is a real story unfolding here that goes well beyond today. In Western tropical and evolutionary astrology, a long-running cycle tied to your third house, the house of siblings, close relatives, neighbors, and everyday communication, has just wrapped up. Whatever repeating setup involving a sibling, cousin, or neighbor has carried you to this point no longer serves the person you are becoming. The loop has genuinely closed. That is not a loss so much as a release, and the same third house energy that once kept you circling that old arrangement is now available to help you reconstruct yourself instead, through your own words, your own ideas, your own voice. It is also worth quietly starting to think ahead toward 2027, because this kind of ending tends to plant the seed for what comes next. Layered on top of that life path shift is a shorter, faster-moving story. Mercury, which rules communication, has been sitting in your own sign, Cancer, all weekend, sharpening your ability to express what you actually mean. Add a supportive trine from an intuitive moon on Saturday, and creativity, along with a genuine wandering, road trip kind of restlessness, has likely been running high. In Western tropical terms, the moon starts out in Pisces, sitting in your ninth house of beliefs and big ideas, opposing Venus in your third house of communication. That is a real tension between dreaming big and getting the details right, and it can easily turn research or planning into a comfortable hiding place instead of forward motion. Later, the Western moon shifts into Aries and lands in your 10th house of career, and action becomes noticeably harder to avoid. But here is what almost every astrologer misses about today. If you follow Vedic or sidereal astrology instead, today's moon is not in Pisces or Aries at all. It is sitting in Aquarius, and that placement is associated with a real spike in confusion and short-tempered agitation. That is not a contradiction of the Western picture, it is the missing piece. The Western lens shows a slow shift from big-picture dreaming into career action. The Vedic lens shows exactly why that shift might feel prickly rather than smooth. Two systems, two vantage points, describing the same friction from different angles. You may have noticed that friction already, maybe a flash of irritation over something small, or a sudden urge to argue a point that normally would not bother you. That is worth naming honestly rather than acting on immediately. Giving in to temper right now tends to alienate the very people you will want beside you once tonight's calmer mood sets in. Let us bring this into love, because your relationships are quietly asking for something specific today. As that career-facing Aries moon moves through your chart this evening, you may care more than usual about whether a relationship is properly acknowledged, whether by a partner, a friend, or even yourself. A partner might consider a quiet, private gesture completely sufficient, while you are craving something more visible, or the reverse could be true. Take a breath here, because this part is genuinely personal. The instinct to stage a big public moment to sidestep an uncomfortable private conversation is understandable, but it rarely resolves the real question underneath. Before anything gets announced, posted, or introduced to anyone else, it is worth simply asking each other what recognition actually means to you both. If you are single, this is a lower stakes day, more suited to enjoying your own company than chasing outside validation. We will come back to relationships in a moment, but career deserves real attention here, because that shift from 9th house big thinking into 10th house action is not optional today. The sky is actively nudging you toward it. If your recent weekend of communicative energy produced any professional ideas, a pitch, a new direction, a conversation you have been circling, tonight favors talking about it out loud rather than continuing to polish it in private. Just resist the urge to start wheeling and dealing over dinner. This is a night for engaged conversation about your passions, not for closing something prematurely. A work-related call could plausibly bring good news today too, so keep your phone within reach rather than tuning out entirely. That same practical energy extends naturally into money, with good news potentially arriving through a work call. This is a better day to hold on to what you have rather than spend impulsively. Unnecessary shopping is worth resisting even if the mood tempts you. Financial steadiness right now comes less from a big win and more from simply not undoing your own progress. Here is what makes today genuinely worth remembering. The restlessness and short temper many Cancers are feeling right now is not actually about today at all. It is the last echo of an old third house cycle finishing while a new career-facing chapter quietly opens underneath it. Most people watching a horoscope today will just feel irritable and blame the day itself. You now know it is really the seam between two eras of your life, and that reframe alone can turn frustration into something closer to relief. Carry that same clarity into your health and your body. If you have been running on that weekend's nomadic, restless energy, Tay rewards actually grounding it. Protein, fiber, and steady nutrition will likely serve you better than skipping meals while you are preoccupied. A short meditation session can meaningfully clear the mental fog that Vedic tradition associates with today's Aquarius moon, and if you want a simple, safe anchor for the day, crimson is considered a supportive color in that same tradition, worn as a general association rather than any kind of personal prescription. The window between 2 and 4 in the afternoon carries a particularly favorable, lucky quality today, worth reserving for whatever task actually matters most. On the family and social side, a call to your best friend today is likely to lighten whatever emotional weight you are carrying. Sometimes just saying something out loud does more than any amount of private overthinking. If you have been quietly resenting the old third house setup with a sibling or neighbor that just ran its course, that release makes space for cleaner, more honest connection with the people who are actually still showing up for you now. If travel is on your mind, especially somewhere culturally rich like a trip to Africa, take real time to learn about the place before you go, rather than arriving unprepared. That curiosity itself becomes part of the experience. Spiritually, today's deeper invitation is simple. The loop that just ended does not need a eulogy, it just needs your attention turned forward, toward the version of yourself that third house energy is now free to help you build. For a quick reference, crimson carries a supportive quality today. The window between 2 and 4 in the afternoon favors your most important task, and quiet, honest conversation outperforms grand gestures for most of the day. So here is where this leaves you. Have one honest conversation about recognition, whether in a relationship or with yourself, instead of staging a moment to avoid it. Turn one weekend idea into an actual calendar entry tonight. Call your best friend before the day ends. And somewhere today, let yourself acknowledge that an old chapter has genuinely closed, not with drama, just with quiet clarity, so the new one has room to start. You do not need to have 2027 figured out today. You just need to stop circling the door that already closed. If this kind of grounded reading helps you see your day more clearly, staying around for the next one means you will not miss where this chapter goes next.